All right. So if you are a business owner or a founder, you are a VP or a sales leader, and you are looking to build out a new outbound motion specifically for cold traffic, I'm going to show you how to build a sales process start to finish. We're going to go over what dashboards you should have, how to, make sure the dialer is connected properly, make sure the flow and the entire funnel is identified of exactly what is being sent and when and how it is working. So we're going to dive in. I'm literally just going to be working through this with you. So I'm going to start, and I always start any of these projects with a whiteboard. So we're using ClickUp here. You can use Miro, you can use Lucidchart, you can use whatever you want, but the visual representations are very important for us when building a funnel, because a lot of times there are little places that leads fall through the cracks or slip through the cracks, and we need to catch those leads, especially when it comes to building a new outbound cold traffic campaign. So first thing we're going to start is right here. It's going to be ad. So obviously, starting point, we just need to start somewhere. So the client is essentially going to see the ad, right? And then, oh, what just happened there? Let me undo that. Command Z. Oh, it's not going to let me undo that. So they see the ad right here. Okay. Now, the next thing that they're going to do is complete application. Okay. And this is going to seem super straightforward right now, but I promise this is how you build a extremely successful cold campaign. Okay. So we have the ad, we have a complete application. Okay. So now we need to figure out what is going to happen after that. Now, specifically in this campaign that we're building, it's going to go from a complete application to a video, essentially. So they're going to get a training. Okay. So it's going to go directly to a training. Now, from here, and this one's a little different than a lot of campaigns that you might be running. So from the training, we are then going to send the lead to two places. Okay. So we're going to send lead to dialer.io, and we're going to send the lead to HubSpot. Okay. So to be able to see that, we can see leads coming into here essentially, and we can see, when they became cold traffic, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. So the lead comes in, and then we're going to also put it into Dialer. Okay. So we can, if you haven't used dialer.io, I have another video on the channel specifically for dialer.io. Essentially it's one of the better dialers out there right now for speed to lead, connection rate, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. So we want to make sure that the leads are making it directly into dialer.io. And then we're also making it into HubSpot. Okay. Now, what we need to ensure right here is that a dial happens in under 5 minutes. Okay. And that's with the exception of weekends or evenings, right? But we want to make sure that we have as much speed to lead as humanly possible. Okay. Now, dialer.io allows you to customize the campaigns. We typically are doing one dial every 30 minutes for 3 attempts on that first day. Okay. Now you can do one dial every 10 minutes, one dial every, 20 minutes, whatever it may be, but you want to make sure you really hit that lead. Every minute that goes by, a lead is going to be less and less likely to actually answer. And I can actually show you that right here in the dashboard, based on just some preliminary data with this specific campaign. So P1 is that initial campaign right now. So on August 8th, for example, we have a 36% contact rate. If we go to P2, we have a 16%, which means P2 is like day 2 typically. P3 is right around day 3, day 4. You can see 16%, right? You can see P4. Okay. So P4, we're dropping all the way to a 3.7% contact rate on average. Okay. So what does that mean? Well, if we look at P1s right here, we have a actual connection rate with the leads that are in there of 36%, and it instantly drops down to 16%. So a 50% less likely to answer on that second day. So keep that in mind when you're building any type of cold traffic campaign. So send lead to dialer. We have HubSpot. So dial happens in under 5 minutes. And then here we're going to have a branch, right? So there's two things that could happen when we dial this lead. They pick up, okay? Or they don't. Keep it simple. We don't have to overcomplicate these charts, right? So they don't pick up, okay? And if they don't pick up, then what happens? Well, then we're going to redial, okay? And we're going to keep redialing. Now, if they end up picking up, so there's, again, two things that can happen after we go through all of our redials. They can pick up or they don't pick up, right? So again, don't overcomplicate this. Pick up. All we're trying to do is visualize where these leads are going to slip through the cracks, so where they're going to fall out of the funnel, and we're going to go catch them, okay? So pick up, and then we have did, why can I not type? Did not pick up, okay? So we have pick up, did not pick up. Now, if they pick up, we're just going to send this guy back over here. I'm going to drag this little line down to the bottom so it's a little just easier to visualize, and then we're going to drag this right here, okay? So essentially, redial, if they pick up, we're going to go back up here, and then the reason I'm connecting here is because then we're going to go from here, okay? Now, here is where a lot of the magic happens and where a lot of leads end up just falling through the cracks. Companies don't even realize. So if we dial them, they don't pick up, we keep redialing them, they don't ever pick up, okay? What are we going to do with these leads? So essentially, these obviously need to go to some type of marketing campaign, okay? And we will specify this later, but for now, we're just going to say marketing campaign, okay? So after they get dialed X amount of times and they get removed from the dialer, we are going to put them into the marketing campaign. But we have to make sure that we do that, because that ultimately is going to be 30-40% of our leads, most likely, right? So we need to nurture those. We need to get some type of value out of those, even if it's only a small percentage, okay? Don't pay for leads and then just like throw them in the garbage can. Now, if they pick up, we're going to revert this back up here, and we're going to start building this up. So when they pick up, what can happen? Well, they can be qualified, all right? Qualified. They can be busy. So maybe they can't talk right now, right? And I'm going to drag this guy way up here just to make it easy to visualize. So we have qualified, we have busy, we have disqualified, okay? So let's just keep it at that. Now, again, you can start to see like, oh, well, I mean, there's a lot of other potential situations that we could run into, but ultimately they're qualified, they were busy and couldn't talk, or they're disqualified, okay? So let's just keep it simple for now. Now I'm going to pop this guy back up here. I'm going to drag this over here, okay? So dial them under 5 minutes. We redial. Eventually they pick up or they don't. If they do pick up, they fall into one of the following buckets: qualified, busy, or disqualified, okay? So if they are qualified, what are we going to do with them? Well, we need to set appointment, all right? And a lot of fall off happens here. So again, we're going to capture this. Now, let me pull up a document real quick, because what we want to be looking at, we always want to kind of break this up. So if we have a CPL of $27.39, I think that's what the marketing team has been getting on like the first rip of this challenge, right? So let's say they spent $27,000 and they got 1,000 leads. Well, right now our connection rate is roughly 40% of all leads that go into there. Okay. So that means there are roughly 400 conversations. Out of that, we had kind of like an initial set rate of 14%. I'm going to talk about that number in a moment. Okay. Now, out of that, that would mean we have 56 sets. We have about an 80% show rate. That's pretty good. And then we have 44.8 shows roughly. Close rate 20%, closes 8.96%. Let's just call it 9. Average order value on these is $6,000. So your cash is $32,000 and your contract value is roughly $53,000. All right. Because the cash is 60% of the average order value. So we are roughly 1.1x on cash On contract value, we are, about double. Now you can see the ROAS right here. So 1.96x. Now, for me, I want to get around 4% no matter what, or better if possible. So when we look at these numbers, and this is why we want to build out the numbers and we want to build out the whiteboard together, because it allows us to begin to visualize where the drop off could be happening. Okay. So one thing we can do here is bring the cost per lead down. All right. Now, if we bring the cost per lead down, we could also drop lead quality. There's a lot of things that can happen. We don't need to go there yet. Now, if we don't change cost per lead and we still get 1,000 leads, the ad spend's exactly the same. Our connection rate's 40%. So now we can ask the question, do we feel is 40% of all leads good that we get a hold of on the initial contact? I'd say that's pretty good for a completely cold traffic campaign, but we can work on it, right? So let's say we don't change that number. Now, for in our conversations, we have the set rate, 14%. Well, 14% of people are qualified based on these 400 people. And there's really two or three reasons why that number could be lower than it should be, and we could increase it, okay? Because that may be the easiest number out of all of these to actually increase. So if we want to increase set rate, we need to either just set more appointments, right? Just get more people to actually book. But quality and the close rate will probably drop because of that. So we want quality sets. So if we want quality sets, what do we need to do? Well, we probably need to have better setter conversations. We need to have better triage calls, right? Because a majority of these people might just be having a 1 or 2 minute conversation, hopping back off the phone, and we didn't do enough digging. We weren't elaborate enough in our conversation, our skill set to be able to actually have a good conversation, see if they're qualified, get them excited about it, and move them into the next part of the funnel, right? So that's option one. Now, how do we go about fixing that? Well, we essentially just do call reviews and make sure that they're actually doing everything that they should be doing. And I highly recommend that you do this on a team call. So essentially, hop on with the marketing team, yourself, and the fulfillment team. This is the Alex Hormozi model. Hop on with all three of those people. I learned this from him way 5 years ago when we were in the mastermind. And hop on a call as a team and review the sales calls, review the fulfillment calls, review everything else. So, but when you review the sales calls as a team, you remove the bias. Like everyone can be like, yeah, that was a good lead, or no, that was a shit lead, and we need to do better. So that is one. Now, two is, okay, well, if the overall quality of these is just shitty and people are working their asses off to be able to improve that number, they're having great conversations with the people that they can, then it's going to be a lead quality issue, and we need to go back here and address the top of funnel, right? So set rate, we can potentially increase to, let's say, 28%, okay? Now, if we do that obviously doubles the amount of sets that we have. So that's a huge needle mover if we can go from 14% to 28%. And in this campaign specifically, I'm confident we can do that because we can tighten up the marketing and we can tighten up our conversations. And those two together, that's 7%. Now we're at 14%. Everyone's happy. We doubled our bookings, and we got to keep everything else the same. So we went from 44 shows to 89 shows. We went from 8 closes to 17 closes. We went from 53,000 to 107,000. We now have a 4.3x ROAS on the actual ad spend that we spent. Okay. So that's pretty good. But this is how you got to look at it. So when we're looking at this, right, we come back to the whiteboard. So if we set the appointment, what is the next most important thing? Well, they got to show up, right? They need to show up to the actual appointment. So if we set this, what are we going to do in between setting the appointment and actually getting them to show up? So there's a couple psychological triggers that we have to be aware of that we need to make sure. So we obviously need, I'm going to put them all in the same box, I guess. Actually, no, I'm just going to, we'll do this. So it's a little bit more visual. So we need our general appointment reminders. And a lot of you are stopping here. You're turning on the once up booking reminders. You're turning on a simple drip campaign that tells them when the appointment is, right? Those are general appointment reminders. Those just should be on no matter what. Like it's almost it's harder to not do those than it is because like once you actually have to go turn them off. Okay. Those are general appointment reminders. Those are not meant to help people show up. Now, the next thing is homework. Okay. So we need some type of pre-call asset. Now, this can be, and I'll put it in here for you. So this can be testimonials. This can be like a actual video, like a homework video, like watch this before you show up, right? This can be a video ask. This could be a video ask from the founder, right? AI. It could be a video ask saying, hey, we're so excited for our call. Make sure you show up on time. Bring these 3 things, right? Whatever it may be. Okay. So we want a pre-call asset. And then lastly, we need an introduction to the closer. All right. And there's a few ways to do this. And it depends on what is your show rate? If your show rate's already at 85%, just stick with general appointment reminders. You don't have to worry about it. You're not going to squeeze much out of that lemon. But if you're at 60%, 65%, if you're below that, I have some people that come to me and they're at 35, 40%. Okay. So the introduction to the closer, why is this important? There's a few ways to do it. Essentially, you can have a group meeting, right? You can have like a group text where the triage person intros the closer to the setter and says, hey, I wanted to introduce Jake here. He is going to be handling the next call with you, and blah, blah, blah. Okay. Jake pops in. Hey, what's up? So great to meet you. Can't wait for our call. Make sure you prepare these things. I'm going to text you in another thread. Text him in another thread. All right. So, but it can also be just a simple workflow where you fire off the initial message from the closer, which is, hey, just saw X rep, the deal owner, right? Or the setter lead owner, booked a call with you. So automate that first one. And this needs to turn into a pre-call conversation. All right. What does pre-call conversation mean? Well, this means that it is up to the sales rep now to get that person to show up. All right. I'm not taking ownership of the sales process of me getting these people to show up. It is the sales rep's lead. They have numbers to manage. You need to make sure that these numbers are tied into their success, right? And how much they get paid. So pre-call conversations, they should be reaching out to that lead as soon as it's booked, having a quick conversation, and engaging with that lead, and leading up to the actual appointment time, engaging with it as well. Again, these are general appointment reminders. These are not pre-call conversations, and this is a pre-call asset, okay? This is something that they need to do. Now, these two can kind of go together. Hey, the closer can introduce the pre-call asset, but you want all 3 of these at a minimum, okay? Now, all of these are going to converge back to one of 2 things. So again, we are just visualizing this entire thing. All right. So we have the appointment time. Appointment time. We'll just put time. So this is the time that the appointment is actually going to happen. All right. So we're going to put this guy right here. We're going to connect all these guys over here. They could be gals. I don't know. I call them guys. So all the guys are going to go into appointment time. Now, from appointment time, you essentially have only 2 options that can happen, right? So I'm going to copy this. I'm going to paste it. Oh, shoot. We'll show you that in a second. So, but there we go. So we essentially have 2 things that could happen. What happens when an appointment time comes around? Well, they can show up or they don't show up. All right. So again, this is not rocket science, but it's so important because I can guarantee most of you, if you go do this right now, you're already missing a couple of these pieces. And a couple of those pieces could be the difference of $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 with one click of setting this stuff up. And yes, I'm drinking an energy drink. 6:46 p.m. on a Saturday night in Germany. I'm in Germany currently. I'm from Scottsdale. So we have the appointment type or time, and they show up or they don't show up. So we're just going to put no show right here. Okay. So now what happens in here? Well, if they show up, we have one of three things that can happen. I'm going to drag this down here a little bit. I'm going to drag this up here a little bit. So if they show up, what can happen? And I just want you guys, again, processing through this as I go through this with you. So if they show up, they turn into a closed won deal, right? Now, your sales process might differ a little bit here because if you have like a 3-call close, you just got to add those steps in. Okay. We're not doing a 3-call close process here. We're doing a 1-call. Us internally, like if you booked a call with me at RevPilot.co, which you can if you want. If you went to our website and booked a call with me, we have a 2-call process because we work with medium to large size businesses with complicated sales processes a lot of times, and there's more than one conversation needed 99% of the time. So the closed one, or they're a follow-up, or they're a deal lost. Not rocket science, but important. Okay, so we got all these. So the follow-up, we have deal lost. And I'm kind of anal about these little boxes. I like to make sure they all line up. All right, so we're going to leave that one for a second, and then we have no-show. So if they don't show up, what are we going to do? What are we going to do about it, right? So enroll to no-show sequence. Let's not overcomplicate this, okay? So then there's one and two things that can happen here. They can either reply or ghost, all right? Maybe they just don't respond to anything else that we have sent them, okay? So they reply or they ghost. Now, if they reply, that still doesn't mean they book. So there's one of two things that can happen here. And I hope you're seeing the trend of like, oh, wow, there's a lot more places that they can fall out than I really expected, okay? So if they reply, they either get rebooked or they don't. There's only two things that can happen, right? So they don't, okay? Now, if they get rebooked, there's, again, two things that can happen. What do you know? Boom and boom. Now, if they get rebooked, they can either show or no show. Okay? Now, no shows. Second time around. You can decide what to do with those. For me, it's brand specific. It depends on what the cost per lead was. If they no show you twice, there's a lot of reasons why you may not want to ever talk to that person again, right? So you can choose kind of what to do in this situation. A lot of times, I'm just going to say, throw them in, marketing campaign, and never worry about them again, okay? Now, if you look here, so if they ghosted, we are going to do the same thing. We're just going to put them in this marketing campaign. So I'm trying to get this thing to connect here. I don't know why there we go. Oh no, what in the world? Wow, it's crazy. That'll work, but I can't get it to do the other one. There we go. So we're just going to put them in this marketing campaign. Okay. Boom. Now, if they reply and they don't rebook, again, just put them over here. So we're just going to make sure that all of these peeps make it into, man, I'm struggling with this. Should have used my mouse. There we go. Okay. So we're just going to make sure that everything that doesn't result in a close or a show or a follow-up gets put back into a marketing campaign. Because if we rebook just 3% of these people, like we're lowering our cost per lead, we're increasing our lifetime value, we're getting a ton of benefit out of that. Okay. So, now let's not lose track. So if they're a no-show, we enroll to a no-show sequence. They either reply or they don't. If they ghost, then we just put them in the marketing campaign. If they reply, we get them rebooked. If they show up, well, that is going to come back over to here. And I know this is getting a little wonky looking. I don't know why this won't work anymore. It's so weird. There we go. So I want to connect that there. Okay. And we're going to move this all the way up. Okay. So essentially they're going to end up back over here, right? Which is what we want. Now they can have one of these three things happen. So it's a deal lost. Where does deal lost go? Well, we're going to put them back in marketing. Okay. And we're going to drag this little, oh no. I told you I was doing this live with you guys. So we're going to drag this down here and just make sure again, you notice how everything's flowing back in this marketing campaign. I guarantee if you go ask your team right now, does all this exist? They're not, like, half these leads are not making it back in your marketing campaign. So, now if it's closed won, obviously this just gets handed off to fulfillment. Okay. Now, follow up. We're not done here. Okay. Just because they had a sales call doesn't mean it closes. So we're going to bring this all the way over here. There we go. And this is either closed won or closed lost. Okay. And let's just say 7 days max. Now, this is a little controversial depending on who you are. The question is, if they had a attempt at that lead, so they followed up with them a couple times, tried to close them, couldn't close them. Let's say it's 14 days later. What I do, and let's make this, so let's make it 14 days. And I put a little secret trigger in here. Okay. And this again, these are the little things that matter. 14 days, no communication. Okay. 14 days. No communication and no future task created. All right. So the rule is they should be in communication with this person, or they have a very specific reason of why they have not communicated with that person in 14 days. All right. So if for whatever reason this happens more than you would ever want to believe, leads are sitting in follow up with no communication for more than 30 days. Like, go check your pipeline right now. I have a whole nother video on this. Go check how many leads are sitting in your pipeline in a follow-up status with no communication for 30 days. All right. This prevents that from ever happening. So as soon as they hit this list, we're going to reassign the lead. Now, we can do a couple things here. We can either strip off the deal owner and just put it into one giant pile and say, hey, anytime these leads go in here, you can go claim them, right? Alternatively, you can round robin them back to a setter or back to a closer, and like have a specific, system for that. Okay. But, reassign these leads. All right. So now we're looking pretty good, and it's looking a little complex, but it's pretty straightforward. And again, that's why I say keep it as simple as possible, because it already looks complicated. You don't need to make it more complicated than it really is. So if they pick up, they're going somewhere. If they redial, they don't pick up, they go to the marketing campaign, right? Same marketing campaign that's going over here. Maybe you have different marketing campaigns for each of those, right? But there is not a single place now where a lead could fall out of the funnel, right? I'm even checking this. So cool. All right. So now we want to assign some benchmarks in here. So dial happens in under 5 minutes. So we want to say 80% of leads first dial in 5 minutes would be the goal. 80%, that 20% accounts for the people that are like on the weekend or after hours. And you still want to check this, because if you notice that 50% of your leads come in overnight, that means you don't have speed of lead on 50% of your leads. So you might need to put someone on the dialer later in the afternoon, whatever it may be. Now, add to completed application. We need to have a benchmark here. So, what is this? So cost, you want marketing metrics here. CPL, we're not going to go into too much of the marketing, but we want a CPL here, benchmark number. You guys decide what it is based on your niche. You want a CPL, you want an app completed rate, and then whatever else, that's pretty good. Now, show rate, again, this is up here. We want at least 75%. Show rate, we want at least 75%. Okay. So once you kind of have this mapped out, what we want to start doing is going in here and figuring out what this pre-call asset is, for example. And we want to start adding it to this Miro board, or I guess it's a ClickUp board, right? So make sure all these pieces are in place. Because a lot of times I find out that, oh, we're not really even sending these over. So, okay, well, why not? It takes 5 minutes to implement this part. So that's pretty straightforward. Now, I want to come back to this, and this is something that I really want to do here. So we're going to copy CPL. We're going to put the CPL up here. We're going to delete this, and we are going to put this equals this times this. Boom. And then we're going to say, yeah, that's fine. So all we're going to do is say equals this times, you can scale this at whatever you want. So if you put 0.01, divided by 0.01, 0.001. Oh! Sorry. There. Oh my gosh. How is this less? Am I just tripping right now? So that number divided by a number that's more. Oh, we want a number that's 1.5 times this number. There we go. Jeez. I should know that, guys. I do know that. I don't know what I'm doing. So if we're scaling at, let's say, 15 per week, now let's just insert one column left here and say date. We're going to say this is week 1, week 2, week 3. We're going to grab this. We're going to drag this down. Now, if you don't model numbers like this, or have someone on, someone on your data team that's modeling this out, you have to do this like immediately. So we're just going to increase our spend ever so slightly like this, right? And then we're going to stop probably right here. So let's get it to 200K a week. Thought it's going to be right around here. Yeah. So, and then we're just going to do equals this and drag this down. Okay. So you can scale your ad spend however you want. You can even add an extra column here and put a percentage adjustment. So it's showing you how much you're actually scaling by. So for example, you can do 10%. 10%. Let's just increase this by 10%. And then put this one 10% as well. Make this yellow so you can know to change this, right? And then say equals this times this plus this. And then just throw in some parentheses here. Okay, cool. So you can see, obviously, we're just increasing by 10% week over week, which is, probably fair. I don't know, 27, 30, 34, 39, pretty scalable. Now, obviously, this is going to go up. So if your cost per lead is here, then it's going to be this equals this divided by this. And this is a number, normal number. So we're just going to drag this guy down. Why are these not working? I got to lock those. So we want purple locked. I'm not a Google Sheets guy. Obviously I do enough, but, so 1,000, 1,200, boom, 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 boom. Okay, cool. And then we can add in, something here as well. How many sales reps do we need? So setters needed. So, because we want to keep that unique dial rate as low as possible, that speed to lead is efficient as possible, et cetera, et cetera. So, how many setters did we need at the 1,000? Let's say, and this is per week. So there's 1,000 new leads per week. Each setter can dial about 100 leads per day. Let's just throw a number in there. Like if you really have 1,000 leads coming in, you probably want around 8 setters, 10 setters. So put in 8 right here, not 8%. So we have 8 setters, right? And then this is going to scale with this. So essentially this is going to be 1%, right? So this is like 1%. So we're just going to do 1%. Guys, these numbers are wonky now. 27 at 1,000, 3,000. No, that's right. But this is off. Well, I don't want 38. Technically, yeah. So, but it's fine. So, again, all we're trying to do, so connection rate, we want to just drag this guy down. Conversions, are going to drag down. I think we, I want to reduce this. There we go. So when we're at 2,000 leads, we're doubled in conversions. Perfect. So set rate, we're going to drag this guy down. Sets, we're going to drag this down. Show rate, we're going to drag this down. And we're just going to expand this thing all the way out, right? So we can start looking at these actual numbers and what needs to happen. So now that we have those initial columns, I wasn't planning on building those, so thanks for bearing with me on that. So cash, expand this guy out. Boom. Let's make both of these columns cash. There we go. And then our ROAS, so this should relatively be the same, right? Perfect. So we can see how this thing starts to scale. And then give me 2 seconds. I'm going to grab my laptop charger. All right, perfect. So I'm just going to grab all of these and drag them all the way down for all of our weeks. And then there we go. Sweet. So we can kind of see how this scales throughout. And I'm just going to fix some of these columns to be as clear as possible. There we go. Cash, contract value. Okay, sweet. So we can see, obviously, we've got a 1.96 ROAS, and we probably want to start improving this ROAS. And, you guys might not be able to scale it 10% like ad spend week over week and keep all these metrics the same, right? So make sure you're just, making these metrics for whatever you think you can do. But you have to start to map this stuff out early so you can start seeing what impact is going to make what impact. So we see basically when let's do at 100 essentially. So week 11 at this kind of scale, we took 12 weeks to go from 27,000 to 100,000 in ad spend, right? And that's per week, right? So now we're getting roughly 4,000 leads per week. And everything else stays the same. So right here is where we're going to start to almost hit our $1 million month on cash with this, right? That's with a 1.96x ROAS. So again, we just want to map this out and then we can start playing with the numbers, right? Change the cost per lead, change the scalability of this, change our contact rate, right? If our set rate goes up to 28%, obviously this whole thing doubles. So now it's like way crazier when we come over to these numbers. Okay. So, but you want to make sure you have this and this whiteboard all kind of mapped out before you start to launch this. You and your marketing team should do this together. Okay. Just like you should review calls together so you can make sure that all of this is working. All right. So now when we're looking at these numbers one more time, if your connection rate is low, you need to fix that because that's as like top of funnel as it gets. Quality of the leads doesn't matter at that. Well, it could play into your connection rate a little bit, but you need to make sure that your connection rate, and when I say connection rate, that's how many out of like total leads, how many did you actually have a conversation with over 2 minutes, right? How many picked up the phone? And then your set rate. Set rate is going to depend on lead quality, setter, skill set, ultimately, those two things are going to be the biggest. Show rate is simply what is your pre-call process and do you make sure you have that dialed in? And then also how far out are you booking your appointments? Because if you don't have enough closers to keep up with the amount of appointments, and enough calendar space, you need to open that up. You should be booking these people within 24 to 48 hours, if at all possible, 72 hours at the worst case scenario. If you can't do that, you need to open up time on your closers' calendars, which means either hire more or have them work more. Pretty simple. Now, when we come into the show rate, close rate, obviously that's going to depend on, mostly in this motion, since we're triaging them first, that's mostly going to depend on the closer skill set and how quality of sets there are. So if your setters are halfway decent, they should have a pretty standardized set, or basically a set close rate that they can hit. That's not on here, but you do need to look at that. So close rate, 20%, whatever that may be. You could be higher, you could be lower. If you are sitting at a 40% close rate, you probably need to reduce, like your setters need to set more appointments. It's as simple as that. You should be closing around 20%. Your top closer might be at like 35. Your bottom closer might be at 12. Then you kind of average around the 20%. So keep an eye on that. Now, your total closes are going to come out, to 17.9 there. Average order value. This is also really big because if you do all this work, I get this to work. If your average order value sucks, a lot of this is just worth wasted time. So how do we increase our average order value? How do we increase our lifetime value, right? And then how much cash are we collecting up front? If you aren't using things like WAP payments, let us know if you want to get set up with WAP, where they have 5 financing options. We also have Shy-Fi financing, which are great options that make sure that you're collecting, 90% of that cash up front or more every single time. If you're below 60% cash collected amount, you need to look at financing or changing your program. Like there's something wrong if you're not collecting that cash up front. And then contract value of those people, how many default on their actual payments, how many people actually end up paying. These are really important kind of lagging metrics in the funnel that you just have to make sure you're as high as possible. And then we have our ROAS. So, obviously that's going to be your marketing metric, making sure that this whole thing is even worth time in the first place. All right. So once you have these two, it's pretty straightforward. Now, you also want to make sure that you have a list of all the leads, right? So here are the leads. We even have speed to lead time. So how soon are these actually getting hit? Now, you can see that the recent leads are not getting hit in the right amount of time. They're just not, okay? So we got to find out, why did they come in and don't get hit? So they came in at 4:05, and then it was not called, right? So, we got to find out why it took 10 hours to actually get a hold of this person. Because none of these are within 5 minutes. All right. So we can fix that pretty easily. So, yeah. And then we want to make sure that we also have a report of, what is actually happening, right? How many deals have been closed from this? What is the total amount that has been closed? Speed to lead time, we're looking at an average of 27.5 hours. So obviously these guys have to clean that up as much as possible. And then we want to do tight call reviews. You want to make sure you review these calls as often and as soon as possible. Because a lot of times if you're launching a cold campaign and you do organic, you're going to run into a big issue where your sales reps are used to warm referral traffic, right? Or organic traffic who already know who you are. They know what the mission is. They know about your product. And there's a level of trust that's already been built. So if this is the first time, then you really need to make sure that you're on top of the actual conversations that are happening. So, yeah, I hope this is helpful. I hope this gives you a good idea of how to map out some of this if you haven't. And if you already have a pretty successful blueprint, or cold campaign, then go ahead and do this anyways, so that you can understand exactly what is actually happening, what needs to happen to, hit that $1 million month, whatever your goals are, et cetera, et cetera. So I hope this was helpful, and we'll see you on the other side. Cheers, guys.